They'll cancel the elections. I mean, we should put sanctions on them. We shouldn't be sanctioning Russia. We should put sanctions on these countries that are doing this. We should put sanctions on NATO. The thing is, we've been supporting NATO with our weapons ever since the end of World War II. So they got all our weapons. And we've been giving them freebies for the last 70 or 100 years or whatever. 70 or 80 years. I think they're run by elites. I think there's corruption in there, and it's been there from the start. It's not new. It's just that the Soviet Union's gone. Their reason to exist is gone. It's 3:43 on that clock. When Trump ended the war there was a war, made peace in Southeast Asia. There was something going on there. And he's done some good in the world. And I think he honestly did try to end Ukraine. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it because Europe's got their mind set on breaking up Russia, I think. They want to break Russia up. And that's what Biden wanted to do. They didn't want to push Russia out of Ukraine. They wanted to break up Russia. It's almost like, let's just reinstall the USSR there. Then they can have Ukraine. Then we'll have a reason to exist. And then we can ask the United States to send us nuclear missiles and more other stuff. And it'll be a nice gravy train for them. Because they'll have a reason to exist. If Russia went back to communism, then NATO would have a reason to exist again. Right now, unless there was a threat from some other country like China, they don't even have a reason to exist. I remember there was a Star Trek show, and there was these missiles that were shot at an enemy, and they were smart. They almost had like an awareness. They were like robots, but they were like smart. And the war ended. Well, the missiles' whole being, their mission, was to reach their target, and it was a long ways away, the target. This is in Star Trek. It was in the Janeway. I think it was in the Janeway series. The one where Janeway was the captain. It was the one where 7 of 9 and Janeway. That's a good set. And it's like, you could talk to these. They brought one on board not realizing what it was. And then they realized, oh shit, this is a missile that could blow the ship up. And there's more of them. And this missile said, we have to reach our target. We have to do our mission. And we have to go through different obstacles to do this. And we were born to do this job. We were created to do this. To save our creators, to save them from destruction. And Janeway and 7 of 9 realized, okay, the war ended. The war's over. And so they had to convince these missiles that they don't need to reach their target. And it's like, they says, no, we're going to go. We're going to hit the target. And it's like, if you don't let us off the ship, we're going to blow up your ship kind of attitude. It says we have to reach the target at all costs. And they had to reason with these, almost like a sentient beings. They had to reason with them that no, you're going to kill a lot of people if you fulfill your mission. You're going to kill a lot of innocent people. And they did prevented it in the story, but that's maybe kind of like what we're dealing with in the world today, because NATO is almost like those missiles. NATO is. The war's over, and yet they still have this mission to destroy Russia. But they won. They already won, just like in the story. They had already won the war and made peace. And it's like, the enemy of these missiles is peace. The enemy of NATO is peace. Because if they get peace, which is what we got, NATO has no reason to exist anymore. There's no reason for them to exist. And so NATO has to be shut down then. Well, there's a lot of people that are going to lose their jobs if that's shut down. There's a lot of companies that are going to lose their livelihood. So there are actually people alive that if we have peace, their lives aren't going to be as good as they used to be. And that's what I think we're facing. That's part of what I think we're facing. NATO, I mean, there's no reason for NATO to exist anymore. I mean, there's a loose China. I mean, but China's not really that close. It's not that big of a threat. They probably buy a lot of stuff from China. I mean, that's our enemy, China. I mean, that's the enemy that's left. And I don't think China could ever take over Europe as they are. I don't think they have the capability. But Russia was a threat. And the thing is, back in the 80s, they had that song named 99 Luftballons, which is, the translation is 99 air balloons that like float in the air, and it was about peace with Russia. And this was the big thing back in the 80s. I remember when that came out. I was still in school, I think, when that came out in the 80s. It was like, came out in 84 even or something. And I remember that song, 99 Luftballons. And it was sang in German, and it was also an English version too. But type in 99 Luftballons, Luftballons, 99 Neunundzig, and then Luftballons, and you get that song. And this was mainstream, peace with the Soviet Union. This is back when they were still under communism. And there was all kinds of talk, oh, let's make peace with Russia. And this song was a product of that. Well, I think it was 89 or 90, the USSR stepped down. And I don't know, 5 years later or something, it was, I don't know how soon it was later, but it was not too long later. Gorbachev was the man who led the Soviet Union, and he was still in power. I mean, he's the one that ended the Soviet Union, and Reagan says, Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Well, he did. And not only did he tear down the wall, physically did it, but he outlawed the Communist Party. They went and got him on a plane from where he was, and they took him to Moscow, and they made sure that he signed that the Communist Party of Russia would be illegal. And so he outlawed, while he was still in power, the Communist Party. And this was, I guess it was in the 90s. I don't remember the exact date. But that's about the time that they just suddenly started turning on Russia. And it's like all this peace stuff out the window. And now it's time to poke the bear. And when Russia gave all of Eastern Europe back. That was under communism. When they stepped down, they reunited Berlin. They tore down the Berlin Wall. I remember that when that happened. They took it down with sledgehammers.